It's time to listen to my favorite podcast. Sis, am I trippin'? Is it me? Am I the villain? Maybe, baby, but don't hit the ceiling. We about healing, so put your 2 cents in when your homegirl asks. Sis, am I trippin'?
What up, you guys? It is your girl, Keaidy Bennett. We're here with another episode of Sis, Am I Trippin'? And I know this is only episode 2, but we're still figuring this thing out. Your girl is still getting herself together. And so it's finna just be me and you, but I'm finna roll out them segments that we talked about last week. So I'm super excited about it. I hope you guys are super excited about it. And let's just jump right into this thing. So one of the segments that I told you guys about last week that I was super excited to start with this podcast is a segment titled Meet Me at the Trap, okay? Because when I first opened up my office building, that's what I called it. Like, I would tell my friends and my family, like, yo, I'm finna go to the trap. I would tell my Instagram followers, I'm at the trap and you should know that. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up adding a space already kind of like in the business to put like a bookstore because I wanted at first to move away from processing our own orders. And, you know, some of y'all didn't like that. Y'all liked the opportunity to receive signed copies. And so we went back to it. So those of you guys who haven't received the announcement, we're back to that. So now we can go back to you meet me at the trap. Okay. And so for this first go around, I just figured it was really important to bring you guys into the Charge It to the Game world with me. And so for those of you guys who are not familiar with what I do, in addition to everything else that I do, I am also the executive producer of the Charge It to the Game series that we're bringing to life. And so stepping into this role has been a challenge, and you'll see because it's part of what we're talking about for this segment, or for this episode, but it's been a challenge for sure, stepping into a new role that I've never been in before. Right. I do well in roles where I know what to expect and I know what's required of me. Stepping into this executive producer role has been a challenge. And like I said, we're going to really get into all of that. But because I feel like it's just a great way to bridge all of my worlds together, we're going to open it up with a little segment from the Charge It to the Game book. Okay. And so for those of you guys who are not familiar with it, this is a series that is telling the story with an Afro-Latina as the main character, as the protagonist. And y'all know I'm Honduran, so it was very important for me to use my voice and my platform to do the things that I wish I saw growing up. I wish I saw, you know, girls either in novelas or just movies, whatever, that looks like me, that stories identified the same as mine. And because I didn't always have that, I said when I created or had the opportunity for my own platform, I was going to use that to highlight, you know, some of our struggles and some of the things that we don't always get the opportunity to talk about. This story is just a little different, right? Because it's a hood story. So, you know, we got drugs and murders and all that other stuff, but we still got an Afro-Latina as the main character. And because, you know, her family plays a big part, we basically have a big Afro-Latino cast in here once this all is ready to be brought to life. We'll get into that later. But for this first segment of Meet Me at the Trap, I just felt like I needed to bring out the big dog that is the reason that y'all even know me as all of these things, whether it's executive producer, president of a publishing company, a best-selling author. This book is the one that made those things possible. And so I should have started with this one. You know what I'm talking about? So that's what we finna do. And I know it looks crazy because we're going to skip all of this and I'm taking y'all to the back. But I just really feel like it kind of, it really does a good job of setting the tone of some of these characters and where we're going with the story. So let's go. The massive 3-bedroom condo he purchased was hectic with all of the moving boxes and movers hauling in the expensive furniture Tammy had purchased. She seemed to really love just standing around barking out orders at people while her home was set up exactly like she wanted it to be. I have a guy coming in a little bit from PTJ Security Systems, Tammy declared to KY in between her rants to her help. I wanted to let you know that I gave him the okay to be in here hooking up the surveillance videos. Between the break-in and their plan to rob Raw, KY knew he needed to be 2 steps ahead when it came to protecting everything they were building. Just as KY was getting ready to respond to Tammy, he noticed a call coming in from Isabella. Hey, beautiful, he answered his phone like he always did for her. What's up? Nada, papi, she replied. I just really miss you. You've been like a ghost on me this last month. How you went from being in my bed with me every night to where things are. Now I have to schedule appointments just to see you and shit. Even though Tammy clearly didn't mind when he talked to Isabella, he still felt like it would be disrespectful to entertain the conversation with her present. He acknowledged Tammy by nodding his head. Then he excused himself to their outside patio that overlooked the city of Orlando so he could finish the rest of the call. It's not like I like things being this way, he lied. I would love to be laying next to you again, but we've got business to take care of. Don't you miss me being able to afford nice gifts for you and take you shopping and shit? I really need to recoup what I've lost so that I can continue to do that shit for you. She sucked her teeth. I know shit has to be done, but this is getting ridiculous, Isabella whined. Cut it out, he replied firmly. He noticed that Isabella seemed to love it when he talked to her rough. I don't want to hear any more fucking whining. Wouldn't it be better to enjoy a nice, relaxing vacation off of some exotic beach while I'm fucking you in any position that you want me in? Kyle asked her as he took his seat and lit his blunt. Well, if that's what the reward was, you should have said that a long time ago, Isabella replied with what sounded like a smile. He has 2 trap houses, but tonight he's going to recoup at the one he has on Mercy Drive. I know the exact location and the time. So what do you want to do? She asked. Let's do it, Kyle responded. And so that was the end of that chapter, but it just gives you, I felt like, a really good way to kind of see the characters that you're dealing with. So obviously KY and Tammy got some going on, and she is obviously not bothered by what he's got going on with other people as long as her business gets handled. And it's been so much fun bringing them to life and bringing this entire project to life. Just because I've admitted my fears of just writing the story in the first place. So the fact that I'm doing all of these things, reading this to y'all on air on a podcast that I'm now producing while I'm producing the show that this book is based off of is just crazy. So make sure that if you guys like this, that you guys check this out. You can go to thebooktrap.com. This is also available on Amazon. And you also want to make sure that you are following the Instagram page that is attached to all of this, which is the Charge It to the Game. It's at Charge It to the Game series. And that way you can be in the loop with everything related to the book and as well related to bringing this project to life right here in the city of Orlando, the beautiful city that is the original setting of the book. And yeah, man, I'm super excited to do this with an Orlando cast, with a director from, well, let me not lie to y'all. He's not from here, but he lives here, and he's all about trying to do things to help others and put other people on. And we're wanting to just build a solid team here. And I couldn't have asked for a better person to build this with. And so I'm super excited about just doing that. But yeah, y'all, if y'all not on it, make sure you get on it. All right, y'all. So this is going to be my first Manic Minute with y'all. And so let me give you just a little bit of a backstory, I guess, so that you can kind of understand why you shouldn't be offended that I'm using Manic Minute. And if you was, I mean, don't be. This isn't a sensitive spot over here. Remember, we got to get comfortable with uncomfortable topics. But a minute ago, a while ago, I had some people tell me that, my thought patterns and processes was not normal. And so long story short, I learned about manic depressive episodes and what those things were. And, some people know it as just bipolar disorder. And it was a process to get to a space where I'm now really comfortable kind of talking about my process on how I even got here through a diagnosis, what, that time has looked like either with medicine or without medicine. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you to copy what I've done. I'm just saying that this is what has worked for me. And so that's where the whole idea of a Manic Minute came from, because as I've learned to live life with this pattern of how my brain works, I realize that I have to keep certain things contained. Because baby, if I get too hype, I'm going to stay there for too long. And that's a dangerous place to be for someone with a thought pattern like mine. And so, I'm leaving myself in a little box. The goal is to do it in under 90 seconds. However, it's my show. And if I need 3 minutes, y'all finna listen to me rant for 3 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set the timer for 90 seconds and we're going to see where this goes. Okay. All right, y'all. So for the very first segment or official segment of our Manic Minute, I really wanted to talk about something that I think doesn't get talked about enough. And one of those things, I briefly have shared my story of my experience with domestic violence. And as a woman who was in that relationship for a long time and I was addicted to the cycle, I didn't realize that while becoming addicted to this cycle that I felt like I had a false sense of control under, because I knew what to expect. At some point or another, as a woman or a man who might be dealing with that, you get trapped in that cycle. It gets to a point where it gets harder and harder to actually even think about leaving, much less doing it. And so I just wanted to share all of my frustrations as someone who has personally done that and as someone who is an advocate for changes, that a lot of these institutions and these organizations that feel like they're created to help domestic violence survivors and their children, or to helping them moving forward with their life and rebuild their life, a lot of y'all don't know what y'all doing. That's the only way I can say it. Like, there are judges that are sitting in prominent positions making decisions that they feel are in the best interest of children and families. And y'all clearly cannot look at that. 90 seconds is over and I got some stuff to say on this topic now. And it's clear that y'all don't know what's really in the best interest or what really these families are struggling with. And so I think at some point or another, we need to get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations and really learning what the challenges are that people face when coming out of these abusive situations. It's not as easy as people think. It's hard as hell. It is hard as hell to come out of what you're familiar and comfortable with. And then after that, having to rebuild and be a human that's also a safe space for your children while trying to move forward with your life. And the organizations are misappropriating these funds. They're not really going to supporting families and the ways that they need to be supported. And so I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired of there not being enough conversation on the struggles that survivors face after rebuilding their lives. I'm going on 2 years out of my situation, and in certain areas of my life, I still very much feel trapped. And it's just like trapped in that season that was already so hard to get out of, and people don't make it easier for you because I don't think they genuinely understand or even care to understand the dynamics of what really goes on in these situations. And so I just really wanted to vent, because if you personally have gone through a situation, I think you owe it to yourself, right? Because I genuinely believe that we overcome by telling our stories and sharing those so other people can heal. And I think, like, if you've personally gone through some things, to not share your story is kind of selfish. And it puts you in a position that someone could be coming in right after you, repeating certain patterns. And you could have the blueprint that could heal somebody. And by not sharing your testimony, not sharing what you've gone through, not sharing the things to look out for, you could be withholding the keys of somebody else's freedom. But also that people that are in a position of power to be making decisions that ultimately affect the families that have already gone through something traumatic, take some time to really understand these people's struggles before you just make up your own narrative. Because for a lot of us, it's difficult and it's hard. And I could only imagine there's probably some woman out there who isn't as resilient or isn't as like, I'm willing to fight to the end no matter what, like I am. And she's already trying to break out of certain thought patterns and divorce ideas that are not hers while trying to rebuild her life. And that, y'all, that shit is hard as hell. And so for this Manic Minute, I really just wanted to stress on the fact that if you don't know, stop speaking like you know. Somebody out there is willing to tell their story if you're willing to ask questions without trying to villainize a person's decision for staying, because we all have an underlying issue or reason as to why we stayed. And so to just kind of put up walls because you can't understand that person means that we're going to continue to have a cycle where people are making decisions for people trying to break patterns, but then still keeping them trapped. And enough is enough. We in 2023, like this has been going on for a long time. Domestic violence is not new, whether it's to men, to women, to children. It is not a new concept. However, how some of these organizations are out here helping people, y'all acting like y'all just found out about it yesterday. Let's get it together. Let's do something different, because we can't keep living like this anymore. We've got families, we've got women, men, children that are desperately wanting a different change and a different outcome. And your ignorance is perpetuating a very unhealthy cycle. So get it together. Anyway, so that wraps up our first Manic Minute together. And next time, y'all, maybe I'll try to stay closer to the 90 seconds, or maybe I'll just push it up to 3 minutes, because let me just be honest with myself. Okay. But finally, the main reason that we're here is always because my question to y'all is always going to be some sort of, sis, am I tripping? Because at the end of the day, those cycles that we become a part of, or the things that become normal for us, only become normal because we never stop to question the thoughts that get us to certain behaviors. And so coming into the season of my life, like I said, it's year 2 of being out of a very crazy situation. I have to keep the emphasis on my mental health. I still have to question each thought. Because y'all, listen, this is going to be another topic for another day, but I love it when somebody asks me a question and in my head, the answer was perfect. Like, it makes sense to me. But when I have somebody questioning my thoughts, I realize, like, girl, that only sounds good to you. Okay. So we'll get into that conversation that led to that discovery of why I love that so much another day. But today, I really want to talk about, sis, am I tripping? Or is it hard as hell to redefine yourself after divorce and abuse? And I'm leaving that pretty open because I think together, no matter what your situation may have been, to get to a point where you are starting your life over without someone that you had made a huge part of your life, to where either you had children with them, or you married them, or you moved in with them, to where you made these very concrete choices and decisions. I think whether you guys were married, had kids, whatever the situation and circumstance would be, was abusive, to put your life with someone, to integrate your life with someone, and then have to start over and redefine who you are as this person after a major loss. Like, am I tripping, or is this hard as hell, y'all? Like, 2 years into the game, almost 2 years into the game, and I'm still going through certain challenges and having to disrupt certain thought patterns that are not mine at all. Certain behaviors of mine that I learned out of my last situation. I thought I would have just been over it. I really thought, okay, I changed my setting and my scenery, and I changed my immediate friend group, and even changed where I work and my schedule and how I commute. And I redefine who I am. The last season of my marriage, I was a business owner and a stockbroker, and mom and wife. And this time around, I'm still a mom, right? I'm still a business owner, but now I'm adding executive producer to that. I'm adding, someone who's running now an office space and hiring employees. And so I've got employer that is now being added to my resume of things, and even changing so much of my life and being so intentional with changing the thought patterns that I thought got me to certain behaviors. I'm still finding that it is very challenging to redefine who you are when there's a part of you that still yearns for what you had. And I want to be very clear when I say yearns for what you had. And some of you guys may or may not agree with how I agree spiritually, but this is one of the things that I think helps me put things into a different perspective. And so in the Bible, the children of Israel had come out of their time in slavery, and they're wandering around in the wilderness, and they're in this new territory, they're in this new land, they're in this new space, and it's not quite where they're trying to go yet. It's just kind of still in that in-between space. And in that time, some of them was like, hey, it wasn't that bad over there where we was. And when you're going through and you're reading, sometimes it's easy to look at that and be like, dang, they were really ungrateful. God was providing for them. They were out of that crazy situation. And even though they didn't know what was coming, like, you knew God was there and you knew he was with you. Like, what is the problem? And if we could just keep it a buck, which that's what we finna do, because that's what the show exists for. And it's my show. So we finna do that. But if we could just keep it a buck, like, it's hard not to have the same mindset of the children of Israel when we're creatures of habit. Our brain naturally loves the idea of a pattern. And that's why understanding the addiction to the abuse cycle or to your partner is important, because our brain loves patterns. My first therapist basically just kind of outlined it for me that after a while, that abuse cycle, even though we can't always predict what, when, where, how it's going to happen, the cycle itself is still the same. And so we know, oh, I'll get hurt, I'll be loved bombed, there might be a period of peace and whatever, and then the cycle starts back over again. And even though that's toxic and it's up and down and it's very unhealthy for our nervous system, we somehow like the security blanket of knowing that I have some sort of control because I at least know what to expect. And we're no different than those children of Israel who are like, manna every day. Like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of just taking enough just to get by for the day. Like, I want to know when I get back to a 3,000 square foot home and my own garden and an office that is separate from my kids' room, where my kids aren't sharing rooms anymore. I want to get back to that. I want to get back to my 2-car garage. I want to get back to having, just my savings just being so comfortable. I want to get back to those things. And so sometimes our brain just goes back to the last situation we came out of, whether it be the divorce or the abusive situation. No matter what it is, our brain says, maybe it wasn't that bad where we were, or maybe we was tripping. Maybe we was the problem. Maybe you should be quiet a little bit more. Maybe, like, all types of different things our brain is going to come in. And so coming out of those situations, not only are we having to sometimes fight the opinions of people in church, opinions of people in courtrooms, right? Depending on divorce, custody agreements, you name it. We're at war with our own thoughts, and like your own reality has been shifted because you're now living in a new reality that you didn't plan for. No woman or man gets into a relationship and expects it to either end because of violence or just end because of irreconcilable differences. Nobody plans for those things. Nobody, when you're planning your wedding night in your head, are you dreaming of like, what I'm finna wear when I go sign my divorce papers though? Like, you're not thinking about these things. And so ultimately, when you have to step into a reality that you never envisioned or planned on, it is really hard. And some days it is hard to be what you need to be for yourself. And so if you have children that you're trying to be there for, or, you know, if you're now into a new situation and you're trying to be there for a partner, or if you've got employees, you've got to, you know, manage and be on top of as well. It gets to be very challenging, and it can easily turn into like it wasn't so bad over there. Maybe now with the knowledge and the wisdom and the person that I am today, I can do better in that situation and go back to that situation. And sometimes our mind will really allow us to go there and try to rationalize those thoughts. And so I wanted to take a minute to not so much just say, to just get y'all's feedback on it, but to really kind of share some of those struggles, y'all, because I know I'm tripping. I don't even need nobody to answer this for me. Like, I am tripping. You would think you're starting over. You don't have to worry about, is this person cheating? Is this person going to come home angry? Is this person going to get violent? When you close your eyes to go to sleep tonight, you don't have to wake up in chaos. You won't be physically woken up in chaos. And you would think that that should just be enough, right? That peace of mind, that peace of quiet, that quiet part in your mind that's no longer like, well, I don't have to consider someone else's wants when I'm making my budget. I don't have to consider someone else's desires and aspirations when I'm making my calendar plans this month. But even in the blessings, sometimes it's really hard. It's really hard to not look back at what you don't have, because now you're maneuvering in a space that you didn't plan to be in. Like every time, and let me say this very loosely because I can count on one hand how I don't even need 3 fingers to tell y'all how many dates I've actively been on since being separated and now divorced. I don't even need 3 fingers. So that should just tell y'all. Okay. But still, every time I am asked on a date or I consider going on a date, I'm reminded of like, oh, now I got to go ask this nigga, what's your favorite color and what you do for a living? And I have to leave myself open and unguarded and allow this person to see me for me and not these boundaries that I want them to see me by. And every time I'm reminded that I have to leave myself open and exposed for someone new, y'all, every time that happens, I feel like I could just cuss my ex-husband out. Like I want to call his phone and be like, yo, mama raised up. And I want to tell him everything and call him everything but a child of God, because I just really feel like maybe he need to know that today, you know? But that's sometimes just anger and frustration. And really, like we've talked about before, anger is a secondary emotion. So it's even taking that step back and saying, while there might be some truth to my feelings and what I'm feeling, I'm scared. I'm afraid of making poor choices in the area of love again. I am learning to rebuild trust within myself. I'm learning to rebuild how I love on myself. And sometimes that changes day to day, depending on what my needs are. And so it's like, I'm nervous about allowing someone to see me in such a raw and vulnerable spot. Like, that's scary as hell. And so every time I have to open myself up to it, I want to just hide under a blanket and just like, I'm finna let that nigga know how I feel and I'm finna just go off. But you know what? I'm sharing all of this to say this. Whether that person gets the problem, whether that person apologizes, whether you ever get to a place of being cordial with that individual, we have to take responsibility for our healing. We never anticipated ending up in this reality, but it is our reality now. And as the author of this chapter of my life, I get to decide how that looks. And so I'm going to hold space for those days where it's really hard. I'm going to hold space for those times where I'm really confused. Like, Keaidy, do you really like this nigga? Like, you think you like this man? Or is he offering some sort of familiarity to your spirit? Or does he falsely give your nervous system some, like, y'all, I overanalyze everything in that moment. And so getting to a point now of trusting myself has been difficult. And I hold space for those times when I'm like, Keaidy, because this is how I have to do it. Put my hand on my chest and just take a couple deep breaths and just say, Keaidy, I love you. And we are doing the best we can with what we have. And the choices that we are making moving forward are being based on being an individual who now holds boundaries and holds herself accountable first, and requires anyone within close proximity to her to take accountability. So baby, we gonna be okay. And I have to hold space for those moments for me to be honest with myself, to be able to say, y'all, this shit is hard. I read my Bible, I pray, I'm still in the process of looking for a new church home. I do have, someone spiritually that I'm submitted under that, she'll call my phone, get me together, or I'm having issues with something, I can call her phone and, have her pray and lead me in wisdom and truth. But it's still hard, y'all. And I'm learning that in this journey to hold space for those days where it's hard and you want to just whine and complain like them children in Israel and just feel like, oh, it really wasn't that bad back there. And you know what? Maybe I could just rewind back and do something a little different. We're not doing that, right? We're renewing our minds, we're renewing our thought process, and we're renewing patterns. And that means that we're unlearning, for some of us, decades of choices and patterns and ways of thinking. And one book that I read a while back painted the most vivid illustration for me of like when you're actually renewing your mind. The author said that, like, imagine you have let's just use your backyard, for example. Just imagine your backyard. Let's just say you've got beautiful green grass back there and no one has ever walked on this beautiful green grass that you have in your backyard. Well, if you wanted to create a trail to make it easy from someone leaving your back door to some beautiful spot that's outside of your backyard, right? Do you know how many times you're going to have to consistently walk and tread the exact same spot before you will leave a physical indication to show that somebody's been walking here? That's what we're doing when we're changing our thought process and patterns. And so, like, the first time that your brain is like, I should go cuss that fool out, and you don't curse them out, that's the first time that you're walking on that trail. That trail that will one day be there. We're speaking it into existence. One day there's going to be a trail, and anybody who sees that trail is going to be able to easily move back and forth, right? But until we get there, baby, It's just uncharted territories that you've crossed over once before. You might have crossed over it a couple of times. There might have been maybe 20 times that you thought to cuss somebody out and you didn't do it. But even doing that 20 times, as much as our ego wants to be celebrated for it, y'all, it's still uncharted territory for us. And so I'm sharing that to say, yes, it's hard. I don't need y'all to answer that. And that's why I didn't have nobody else on here really with me, because I didn't need anybody to tell me that it's hard. As a matter of fact, I wanted to share with other people that, yes, it's hard. Yes, even with prayer and therapy and meditation and going on trips and vacations and changing your routine and getting a gym schedule and doing all of these things. You can do all of these things, and still, when you're in your bed at night, or when you want to be cuddled, or something exciting happens and you want to call somebody, and you don't have that, and your life is completely different, and you're faced with that fact that you're living a reality that you never foresaw or planned, that it's okay to just take a minute and say, this shit is hard. And then take a moment to not only say that it's hard, but to show yourself some grace and some empathy, because for a lot of us, that's hard. So have that thought and say, you know what? This is hard as hell. This divorce, being divorced is harder than I freaking thought, Starting my life over and dating again, asking these motherfuckers what their favorite color is. This was harder than I freaking thought. Okay? And then put your hand on your chest, take a couple deep breaths and say, I hear you. I see you. Your feelings are valid. They matter. And sometimes that's all you can do. Sometimes you can't even rationalize it further than that. Sometimes all you can say to self is, I see you. I hear you. I get it. And then the goal is to then step up to a place of like, I'm sorry that we're going through this. And I forgive myself for putting myself through this. And I forgive that person for putting me through this. And then we're eventually going to get to a place, I'm believing it. Maybe I'll end it with that question. For somebody who has gone through this and has really changed their life again, right? Because I would imagine if you've been divorced or if you left an abusive situation, you don't foresee yourself being in another relationship. But for someone who's maybe done what I've done, divorced or abuse, maybe both, like, how was that? Can you offer some hope to some of us that's like, y'all, when I tell you, I'm not even actively dating for someone who want a man. I really do, but I'm not even actively dating. Can you offer us some help, some words of encouragement, something, and let us know that we're not going to be stuck in this way of thinking forever? Can somebody do that? Because I can only share with y'all what I know, and what I know is that it's hard as hell. And on those days that it's hard as hell, leaving space to admit that, and then leaning into a space of gratitude or just a space of empathy usually pulls me out of that funk. But to even take it a step further, is there somebody out there who is willing to offer some advice who is willing to offer some words of encouragement that it gets better? And what you're feeling right now, whether you tuned into this because you was feeling that, or those days when I'm feeling it, can you offer some words of encouragement to those of us who just want to have hope for more things, right? Because trust me, baby, we gonna talk about this for a different day and a different time. But it is very stressful and very hard being someone who believes in love and romance in this dating world. Everybody feels like they could taste the cookie first. They got to taste and they got to double and triple and quadruple taste the cookie and still not be sure. And like, some of these people want to be treated like bad chicks. And it's like, sir, just because you tall and you got a good job, like, you're not finna have me out here looking like Nikki Parker. Like, I'm not finna be looking crazy. You're not finna flavor of love me like I'm just some No, we not we not doing all of that. And that's what dating in 2023 feels like. So if somebody can offer some words of encouragement for myself and those in this situation, I'd really appreciate it. But if you have felt like me, just know that you're not alone. Sis, we are not tripping. This ish is hard. More importantly, there are people out there who have overcome what we are overcoming right now. And we just got to know that it gets better. And we won't sit back and wait for those words of encouragement, because I genuinely believe that they are going to come. And so we are going to end it with this. And I'm just going to say this because I just genuinely believe that we don't hear it enough. But baby, I'm proud of you for just being you. I'm proud of you for showing up today. I'm proud of you for believing in yourself today. I'm proud of you for everything that you've done just to get you here. Maybe you just got out of bed. Maybe you brushed your teeth. Maybe that's all you did so far this morning or today. Baby, I'm proud of you for just doing those things. Not for who you are, not for what your job title is, not for what your bank account says you make, but I am proud of you for just being you. And sometimes we just need to know that we are enough, not because of how we perform or what we do or how we do what we do, but just because we're here and alive and not giving up, and not letting our circumstances define who we are. And we're not being defeated. Baby, that does not get celebrated enough. So today, I just want to celebrate you for being you, for doing you, and looking good doing you, boo. And keep doing you the way that you do you. And don't care about nobody and how they have a feeling about how you do what you do. Let them do what they do over there. Just be mad. Okay? And we're going to continue to do us. We're going to continue to heal. We're going to continue to allow Fridays to be our days of intentional healing and reflection. And just tell anybody who don't like it, they just going to have to hashtag charge it to the game and keep it pushing.